Well, here we are back again to
Back.
talk again. We are not together right now, sadly.
Yeah.
I am on the road in Atlanta
And
today.
I am not.
What?
And I am not.
And you are not, sadly. You are home
With a dog.
with the dog. I wish you were here.
Yeah.
But today we are going to talk. We're going to talk about notes and why we take notes and how AI is kind of revolutionizing, at least for me, notes that we take and what we do with them. So the way I see it, there are 3 different types of notes that we take. One type of notes,
Like I need to write this down.
one type of notes is notes that are actions that we need to do later. Like I'm in a meeting, say we're in a meeting together, and I'm like, Sean, after this meeting, could you call the plumber and can you run the payroll and can you, right, whatever. And
Things that you want me to write down.
things that you need to do later. Instead of trying to remember them, write them down. So tasks.
Good habit.
Good habit, yes. The second kind of notes that we take are what I think of as reference notes. So there's action notes. That's the first type. Second type is reference notes, which means I will need I will actively need this information later, but there may or may not be a direct action. So the action might be like, let's say we met. People know, well, people probably don't know, but one of the things that we're doing is a remodel project, a sunroom on the back of the house, maybe. And so we're meeting with these contractors. And so the contractors come over. And if we work with them, they need to know the dimensions of the existing deck. They need to know how high the ceiling is. They need to know how big we want the deck to be, right? So they have no particular action right now, but they will need this information later. So it is for them to reference back. If I call them back and I say, yes, go ahead and send me the quote, we're going to move forward on this. Then they're going to have to reference those notes that they took. Oh, right. How big was the deck? How big is the room? How high is the ceiling? Blah, blah, blah. Right.
Or they could just come back over.
Well, yes, but that would be a waste of time.
Of time. Exactly.
That might be inefficient, right? So action notes, reference notes. And then the third type of notes are learning notes.
Explain that.
So I go into a company and I teach them how to achieve more of their most significant results. And they are listening to me and they are writing things down that I say to help them learn.
Okay.
It's not necessarily, it's really just to help sort of, I hear you saying it. If I handwrite it, now this is only true when you handwrite notes. If I handwrite it, it will help me learn it. That is true. It is proven by science. That is not true. What a lot of people don't know. That is not true when you type your notes. Typing your notes does not help you learn. Only handwriting does.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So it's more than just writing down things you might want to remember or might need to remember. It's also about helping your brain absorb the information.
Yes. Yes. And it might be because you want to remember or you need to remember, but maybe you don't know entirely right now. You're just writing down what you're hearing because it's interesting and you kind of want to know, oh, I didn't know that. And that's interesting information. I didn't know that before, right? So you're writing those things down to help you absorb it. Exactly what you said. That's exactly right.
Okay.
And the reason when I am delivering training, I always tell the people, like my contact at the company, I tell them in advance, it might be helpful if you tell people to to take notes by hand instead of typing them, because when we take notes by hand, it helps us learn.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't take notes by hand because they can't read their handwriting.
Not guilty of that.
Your handwriting is horrendous, so you're
So good.
100%. You should have been a
So
doctor.
readable.
No offense to all the doctors out there, but your handwriting horrible. So people don't like to write notes because they say, I can't read my notes. So, I don't necessarily go into all of this unless people ask me about it. But I mean, the first thing I think about is, let's face it, you're taking notes simply to help you learn. You're probably never going to go back and look at those notes. Let's just get that out of the way. You are probably never going to go back and look at those notes if school is different. If you're being tested on it later, then sure, you're going to go back and look at those notes. But if you're just like a grown-up in a learning situation, you're probably never going to go back and look at those notes.
Hmm.
If you give me materials, I might look at those, but I'm probably not going to dig out the notebook from the workshop I was in a year ago that is maybe somewhere on a shelf and flip through that notebook and look for those pages and read that again. Probably never going to do it.
I feel like there's an unless there, but yeah.
Yes, that is not 100% true in all cases, but I would suggest in the majority of cases, that is probably true.
Okay.
So if you're taking notes to help you learn, I would say consider the odds that what does this have to do with AI? We'll get there in a minute. But if you are taking notes to learn, then I would ask you to consider how likely is it that you will go back and read those notes. And if you're honest with yourself and the answer is it's not very likely, then take the notes by hand, and then you might just throw away the notes depending on the session that you are in. Or because the act of writing it down is what helps you learn.
Just increases the likelihood that you remember.
Yes.
Mhm.
But if you do want to keep them, and just use the app. I mean, this didn't used to be true, but I just discovered on iPhone, you now can select scan on your iPhone. I think I saw that somewhere. I don't know. But either way, you take a picture or you use a scanner app
Mhm.
on your phone to scan those notes that you took and then save them digitally. Right?
You can write them digitally too, using an iPad with Nebo or a Remarkable tablet.
That is true. You could also do that, which is great, which is another great thing. Or there's there's one of those erasable it's a notebook. It comes with an erasable pen, which is basically the same thing. It just makes it easy for you to scan it. It's the same thing. You don't need to buy the fancy notebook and the special pen. You can just take it on any piece of paper and scan it yourself. So anyway, if you are writing to help you learn, then you should handwrite your notes. Okay, so we've all been in these situations, even as grown-ups, right? We take a class or we engage in some sort of professional development. We watch a YouTube video, whatever, right? We're learning some things
Mhm.
and we take notes on
Good.
that thing as adults. And a lot of people type them now. But regardless, whether you handwrite them or you type them, let's face it, those notes just end up sitting somewhere and we rarely ever do anything with them.
What would we do with them?
Read them again later? I don't know.
Use them
But
as a reference, probably, to answer questions.
maybe if or somebody might say, or you might say, like, you might be telling something, oh, I just learned something. I learned this thing, and somebody's like, really, what do you mean by that? And you're like, hang on, let me just look at my notes. I'll tell you what I wrote down or whatever, right? Or you might share them with somebody else. That's all good. It's all good.
Good to be knowledgeable. It's good to have information.
Yes. But for the most part, what I have found personally and what I have found in my experience with clients is that we write this stuff down or we type it, either way, and then we can't really, that information sort of dies, right? I mean, we retain whatever we retain, but then it just becomes this thing, either a physical thing, a notebook on a shelf, or a digital thing that's in a file somewhere. I don't even remember where I put it, but I think I have it. I might have it somewhere, whatever, right?
The part of some pile somewhere.
Yes. Here's where AI comes in.
Okay.
AI has now made it possible for us to easily to turn this information that we received in whatever format we have it into knowledge, into active, actionable knowledge that we can interact with. We can test ourselves on it. We can answer questions about it. And AI is what makes this possible. So now there are note-taking tools where you can create a notebook related to a specific topic. Like I'm studying, like you and I have been engaged in learning about personal finance and money management, how to like increase our wealth, right? We've been on this journey for a long time. So we have all of this data. Shout out to Garrick Anderson and his money multiplier network. So we've been students of Garrick Anderson for a long time. So we have workbooks, and we have worksheets, and we have spreadsheets that we've made, and we have books that he's written. We have all of this stuff. And it just, I mean, we have videos, we have audio recordings. And before it was like, yeah, I mean, we could go back and read it, right? We consumed it and we took some information from it. And now we have all these files of stuff.
Okay.
Well, with an AI powered notebook, and there are many, the one I've been using is called NotebookLM. It's from Google.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can add all of this information that you have learned about a specific topic or that you have collected about a specific topic. If you're in school, right, you take notes on every class, you read a book, you take notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can interact with that data. So NotebookLM has a couple of different things. One is it can create a briefing document. Like here's an overview of everything in this notebook. Two, you can create, you can have it quiz you on the information in the notebook. So you can really actively study the information.
Or the people who like taking tests.
Yeah, or just, practice and interact with it. It's kind of like speaking a language, right? Finance is a language all its own. If you don't speak it all the time, you forget it, right?
Right.
Exactly. So it's that you could just go back every so often and have it quiz you on something
Okay.
related to that. Also, you can chat with it. You can ask it information about the data that you have uploaded. So, in the case of, as I mentioned, we're doing this remodel of the sunroom. So I've collected all these articles about like what to think about when you do a home remodel and how to choose a contractor and all this different things. So, and then we've received quotes. So I put the quotes in all these articles into NotebookLM. And I said, like, compare the quote from this contractor to the quote from this contractor. Where are the differences? Or I've said, like, I have a meeting. I could say, I have a meeting with a contractor coming up. What are the questions I should ask them? And it's based on all of this information that you have uploaded. So it really becomes, and then we got a quote from one contractor, and then we really sort of solidified our plans, and then we got another quote, right? So we had blueprints and stuff, and then we got another quote. So then I was able to ask, I had all the stuff into NotebookLM, and then I was able to ask, what are the differences between the first quote from this contractor and the second quote from this contractor? And what questions should I ask based on those differences? So it's almost like you have a little part of a very smart brain that is dedicated to entirely one subject with all the information that you have put in. I don't necessarily want to know everything that everybody ever says, right? You could Google like something about finance, right? But I don't want to know everything about finance. I just want to know, what did this book, or what would Garrett say about this piece of this thing? Don't go out to the internet and search every person who's ever talked about finance. just in this context, what does this mean?
So it turns your piles of information into little brains, little Frankenstein brains.
Little brains that you can connect with and interact with as if it's another person,
Okay.
kind of, right?
Okay.
So there are others. So NotebookLM comes with what I think Google is now calling a Google One subscription. So if you have a Google Workspace for Business account, NotebookLM Pro. Okay, so there's NotebookLM, and NotebookLM Pro.
Okay.
And so obviously, like the free version has some things, and then the Pro version has other features. So we have Google Workspace for Business, which I've never loved. Honestly, NotebookLM has turned me into a Google Workspace fan for this specific feature because I love it.
Okay.
If you don't have a Workspace for Business account, you can get, I think, what's called a Google One account. And I think it's $20 a month. It comes with Gemini Pro, which is Google's answer to ChatGPT, right? So you get like Gemini and you get NotebookLM Pro and you get some other things if you subscribe to this Google One subscription that, as the time of this recording, is $20. But interestingly, even when I asked Gemini, which is Google's product, which is Google's AI, which has the capability to search the internet and get the most recent information, I asked Gemini about Google's AI subscription and it couldn't even tell me. It was like, well, things are changing. It's very cagey. So you'll have to do your own research based on when you are listening to this. But NotebookLM Pro is a really powerful tool, in my opinion. But there are others. There's Notion is one. And if you just Google like or do an internet search for AI powered digital notebooks, all different kinds of options come up.
And you can interact with them on your phone, your tablet, your computer. So if I store the information on my computer, but I want to access it when I'm in a meeting, I can.
Not right now.
Yeah. Okay.
As of right now, when we are recording this, there is no phone app for NotebookLM Pro.
So just on your computer.
Just on your computer.
Okay.
But what you can do is take notes by hand or type them in your meeting. Mm-hmm. And then you go back to your desk and you upload that document into the notebook about that.
Will it read your handwriting if you just scan the document and upload it there, or will it require you to type the information into the tool?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What you might do, here's a better idea. What you might do is record the meeting, and then you can upload the audio of the audio recording of the meeting into NotebookLM. And then I use NotebookLM Pro also as my own little transcription tool. So there are transcription services that I have used in the past, like Temi and Rev. And sorry if this is killing their business model, but now I record things and I upload the recording into NotebookLM just to get the transcript.
You record them in QuickTime, Zoom? How do you?
Yes, it depends. So I do voice notes on my phone, like the voice memo on my phone. If I'm in a meeting, you could do the Zoom recording. There's also like Otter and Firefly and lots of online note-taking tools. Zoom has its own, right? All of these different ones. But I will take either the audio recording or the transcript, depending on how I recorded it and how I got it.
Okay.
I will upload one of those two things into NotebookLM, sometimes just for the transcription. Mm-hmm. And then I copy and paste the transcription into a document and I save it somewhere else. And then I delete that particular notebook. I just use it as my own transcription service.
So you record, you upload it to the AI, and you have the AI save it in some pile that then becomes accessible to you through the brain of the AI.
Yes, it depends on what I'm using it for. So, for example, you and I had a Zoom meeting with one of the contractors.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the guy if I could record the meeting. And then because it was on Zoom, Zoom already provides the transcription.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the transcription of the meeting and I uploaded it into the notebook about the remodel project.
Okay. Okay. So you have a notebook, a specific notebook dedicated to that project, and you upload the document there. So
That's
that's how you're organizing.
That's right.
That's
Yes, it's around a specific topic. So if you're like on a project team or if you're on a committee,
Mhm.
every time you go to a committee meeting, you could record the committee meeting
Mhm.
and then, or the project meeting, and then you could have a notebook dedicated to the project. And if you have Notebook LM Pro, you can share that notebook with other people who also have Notebook LM.
Okay.
And so then everybody can add things or save things to the notebook. Now, also, if you're a Microsoft user, I believe that most of this functionality is available in the Microsoft Suite through a combination of Teams. You could create a Teams workspace that has many of these similar features. And today is not really about endorsing any specific one because it doesn't really matter which one you use. It's like everything else I teach, right? When it comes to productivity, people always ask me like, what app should I use for tasks? Who cares? What set of golf clubs should you use to golf? Who cares, right? First, it's not the tools that make the difference. It's how you use the tools.
The practice. It's the
Yeah,
behaviors,
the behaviors. That's right.
the
So
habits. It's your habits.
yes. So, but if we go back to the sports analogy, if you are learning how to play golf,
Mhm.
which is parallel to people who come to us, if you're learning how to improve your productivity, what app you use doesn't matter. What golf clubs you use at the golf lesson don't matter.
Mhm.
First, we want to make sure you know how to play golf.
Mhm.
And once you know how to play golf, any clubs will do. Whatever clubs you like, go for it,
Right.
right? It's the same thing with all productivity tools, including notebooks. Once you understand, oh, this is how you can really derive value from an AI enabled note taking tool. Once you understand that, any tool you use is fine.
So it's more important that I develop a habit of archiving information than that I use some specific tool. So in other words, just trying to keep everything in my head is the downfall.
Or before, I used to tell people take notes and then throw them away because you're probably never going to use them again, right? And if you're never going to use them again, then why have them take space on a shelf? You are never going to look at that shelf. You're never going to pull down that notebook from
Yeah.
10 years ago, from that job where you took that class. You're never going to do it.
Yeah.
Take notes and throw them away. But now we are in a whole new world.
Mhm.
And now you really can make use of those notes. And you really can continue to learn. Now, you could make the argument, yes, you could go back and read the notes again. You could, but you never will.
Mhm.
But now you could go back and just ask a question. You could go,
Because you will have questions.
you will have questions, but a year later, you could go to the notebook for the class or the learning that you did, and you could say, what were the top 3 takeaways from that class again? Right? You type that into the chat and the AI surfaces that information. And then you're like, oh, right. Oh, but I forgot about that. And tell me a little bit more about that one. And you can have a conversation as if you were going back to the professor or the teacher who taught the class.
Mhm.
It is so powerful. So powerful. So I am geeking out over AI, AI enhanced digital note taking tools these days.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Have you used anything like that much?
I've used Gemini, I've used ChatGPT, but I have not used a notebook AI just yet. But I'm going to after this.
I know that was my question. Did this inspire you to want to go try
Sure.
it? Babe, that doesn't sound all that convincing.
Well, as with anything, it takes time to adapt yourself to doing any one thing. And it's always more difficult the first time than it is the 10th time. So, yes, while I am interested in doing it, it also feels a little daunting.
It does. It does. Figuring out which one, and that is a good reason to recommend things. But people, for example, come to me and they're like, which task manager should I choose?
Mhm.
I'm like, it's too soon to talk about. It's like, which golf club should I buy? I don't know. First, you need to learn how to play golf. Let me teach you how to improve your productivity. And then once you have a good understanding, then I'm happy to recommend tools for you.
Mhm.
So what I hope that people are getting from this is how to use the tools to really leverage it. And then even then, which tools should I use? It really depends on what platform you're on. Like if you are like just into the whole Microsoft suite, I'm not going to recommend that you use a Google product. That doesn't make any sense, right? So it really depends. But if you do a search, and here's something that you could even ask your AI of choice if you're using ChatGPT, or if you're using Gemini, or if you're using Claude or Perplexity or anything you want. You could say to it, let's just say ChatGPT because it's free. You go to ChatGPT, you don't even need an account, and you could say, what are some of the most common digital AI enabled note taking tools available? Please create a table detailing the pros and cons and differences of each one of these tools. And it will do that for you in like 10 seconds. And then you can use that. And you could also put in some information like, if I primarily use Google tools, which one should I use? If I primarily use Microsoft tools, which one should I use? Et cetera, et cetera. And what are the differences? And that can help you make a decision, because anytime you ask any expert for an opinion on something, the answer is always, it depends, right? It depends.
Well, and I think so. You're talking about the tools, but we've already made a point of the fact that it's not necessarily the tools; it's the behavior.
Yes.
And so, yes, I want to identify the right tool, but I've also got to identify the right behaviors to change. If I'm not the kind of person that makes a habit of archiving information, then I need to develop some habits related to archiving information. And if we're going to be changing behaviors, we know that one of the things that we should do is, as Chip and Dan Heath put it, script the moves, outline the steps that we'll take to archive information. And so we might think of what type of project might we want to create in a tool like NotebookLM that we would then begin storing information for, and then think about what kinds of information might we come across at different points. What kinds of information might we have right now that we could store in that tool? So there's kind of a process for beginning to get information into whatever tool
Yeah. It's
that
a
we,
really good, it's a really good point. Um, so I record way more meetings these days than I ever used to record in the past, because it used to be that like I would take notes. But even as like Zoom meetings have become more common, I for the longest time I didn't record most of them because it felt kind of creepy, right? Like, why do I need some AI listening, and this whole conversation is going to be stored somewhere, and why do I need that? I can just write down what I need to know. But now with the power to surface relevant information, you just never know what kind of nuggets might come up. And now I find myself, for a while, I was like, darn it, why didn't I record this? Right. Um, and now I'm much more likely to record meetings because you just never know what's going to come up. And if nothing comes up, then you can just take what you need, like take what you need from the transcript and then delete the recording. But having that information handy, like now as we interview contractors, every conversation we have with a contractor, I record so that I can then surface that information. Then I can compare it. Wait, what did that guy say about this versus what did that guy say about this? And when I asked that question, what was their answer? I can't remember, like all of that kind of stuff. It's so, and I don't have to go back and watch the recording. I can just ask the AI.
right.
and slow
So,
down.
so you've developed a habit, not just of recording, but of having that discussion with the people that you're meeting with. And that probably includes a discussion about the fact that you'll share the recording with them and they can also use it as useful source of information. So you've developed
Yes.
new habits for archiving information from meetings.
Yes, because what I have found is that first, like having the recording that I may or may not go back and watch is one thing. It's kind of like taking notes that I may or may not go back and read, right?
Just gonna go back and watch an entire meeting. That's so
No,
boring.
nobody's going to. So there was that. But and then there was, okay, well, there's a meeting and then there's a transcript. Well, okay, that might be helpful, but now I have to like read through the transcript, which I probably won't do. But
Terrible.
now having the recording or the transcript,
Mhm.
now I can ask it questions as if there was a person with an eidetic memory, like Sheldon from Big Bang, who remembers every single word of the whole conversation and can spit out answers for you. That's what AI is like.
And it's a lot less annoying.
And it's a lot less annoying than Sheldon. Absolutely. Right. So the fact that I can interact with information that used to be static. AI makes information dynamic as opposed to static, which makes it much more useful.
Mm.
And so you are exactly right that capturing meetings now and capturing conversations is much, or capturing thoughts, capturing musings, capturing a whole variety of things is now much more useful than it used to be, because before it was just you're creating reams and reams of data. We used to say back in the days of paper-based productivity, we used to talk about how we help you turn information into knowledge.
Mhm.
And that was a stretch back then, right? But now that's not a stretch. Now that is absolutely the truth. You take all this data and you turn it into useful stuff that you can do things with. That's to me one of the most powerful advancements that AI has brought about.
Yeah. That sounds like a good reason for the statement that AI will not replace people, but people who use AI will replace people who don't use AI.
Yeah.
Can
Be-
make it a lot smarter.
yes. Yes. It's not the data that you collect, it's what you do with the data,
Right.
for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Well,
The habits that you develop as well.
yes. Yep.
It's
Yes.
often a good idea to take notes, but all haven't all done it because, again, as you're pointing out, what are we ever going to do with those notes? So why take them?
Right. Right. But now if I record a meeting with a client, I can not only send them the recording or send them the transcript, I can interact with the AI to pull out what are the most useful things that came out of this conversation. What were the major points that came out of this conversation? And I can tailor what I provide to give them only to get for myself only the most useful stuff. I don't need to know that we talked about the weather, right? I don't need to know that we were like, oh, wasn't that event fun last week? Right. Wait, who cares? Right. That is the personal stuff. It's the data that can't, like, what did we decide in that meeting? How did we come to that conclusion?
Mhm.
What were the action steps, right? I can't, and even there are AI generated summaries, but I have found even those don't give me what I want. What I find is that when I interact with the data, with the recording, right, with the transcript, then that helps me pull out really what was the most useful, not what the AI thinks was most useful, but what I think and what I know the client will feel was the most useful and relevant pieces of this. And then I can provide them that. And it only takes me 5 minutes, right? So yeah,
It's a
you're
good
right.
reason.
That is the partnership between humans and AI that I think makes AI super helpful in a way that it isn't as helpful all by itself.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're listening, I hope this has inspired you to make some good use and gain some efficiencies, kind of embrace new scary technology as AI kind of is for many people. I hope this has taken some of the scary out of it and maybe inspired you to make some use of it. If you have questions for us, you can send them to podcast@morathomas.com. And if you have any ideas for topics that you'd like to see in the future, also podcast@morathomas.com. I hope you'll come back and listen again.
Thanks for joining us on AI for an Empowered Life. Be sure to like and subscribe if you would like to know more about attention management, Mora's groundbreaking approach to reclaiming your time, focusing your energy, and living a more empowered life. You can also visit www.morathomas.com, where you'll find tools and resources to help you make every moment matter and achieve more of your most significant results.